Hey there, everybody. Welcome to a review and reaction for Succession Season 4, Episode 2, Rehearsal. Okay, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say this may already be a top 5 episode of the whole show for me. I think this episode was phenomenal, memorable, weird. Like, there's so much going on, both like in a macro sense and then like down to all these like little character motivations.
This was a top episode for me, just when it comes to sort of the family dynamic and what
Yeah.
each of the kids really need from their parents, having two parents that are both neglectful parents, and how it's created these neglectful, siblings that, they don't know how to give each other any sort of support. This was the best Connor episode by far. By far. That line that he said, where he was basically like, having a family that doesn't love you has made me a person that can live without love. Like, I broke apart.
Yeah. Alan Rock, man. So this is going to be
10 out of 10. Incredible.
I've made my love of Connor the character very clear over time. This is the best Connor episode. He's so earnest, I think, with what he says, and then even with all of that, there's this other like interior question of like, do I still believe him? There's so much to get into. We are going to talk about Connor, Roman's decision at the end of this episode,
Yep.
Kendall's decision, but hit that subscribe button. We will be here after every episode of Succession, the final season, which also breaks me apart on the inside to acknowledge that.
Yeah. I mean, okay, let's start with the Connor of it
Yes.
all, okay?
Yeah.
Your boy Connor.
Okay.
So we had in this episode that he was having his rehearsal dinner. Willa, she was not having an easy time with it.
Yeah.
Took off sort of before it really even got going. She got up to get a speech and was just like, I can't do this, and left. And we saw the siblings come together to take Connor out karaokeing and sort of having some sort of time together, but they were never really present. They were really dealing with everything that was going on, sort of this should we vote no, should we vote yes, with everything that's going on with Matsson, will he walk, won't he? That they weren't actually really there for Connor, who's, his fiance just walked out on their rehearsal dinner. He's hurting. So that's why when they finally do get to this, where he says this at the end of the episode, where
Yeah.
he's just like, having a family that doesn't love you has prepared me for this, which is basically, we're all in this situation now where we're all incapable of giving love or accepting love. And it's true.
This is why Connor is such a really good and underutilized character on this show sometimes. And he's obviously not exactly perfect. He is tracking Willa's location on the phone throughout the
I
episode.
know, but he keeps the show
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah, he keeps the show very, very honest. He is very, you kind of know where he stands the majority of the time. He's blunt in a way that the other siblings are. And I think his line at the end of this episode about, understanding what it's like to not have love. I mean, obviously it's heartbreaking, but I also think he's so in the weeds of not having love that I don't think he can really acknowledge or understand that, he does really want love. Like, this is a guy who is so obsessed with the just attention and recognition and getting somebody to just pat him on the back and be like, Connor, I respect you, because Logan sure never did. And I think he harbors all this resentment because here are, Logan's other children who get love and attention from him. And what did they do?
Sometimes.
They get more than he does. And
Absolutely. They get more than he does, but clearly they don't get enough either. I mean, we saw that with Roman tonight, and
yeah,
we've seen that with Roman throughout the show.
it's just with Connor. He's running for freaking president because he's so desperate, I think, to just have somebody acknowledge and congratulate him. And I think he does want, he can live without it, but I think he does want Willa to love him. And it's very clear by the fact that she walked out on the rehearsal dinner, didn't contact him about it at all. But I mean, she was still at his place at the end. I mean, it seems like, the next episode's title, Connor's Wedding. It's going to be moving forward somehow, but I feel so bad for Connor most of the time. Like, I really do.
Yeah, I mean, I think he would have liked to have had love, but I believe him when he says that he's because of how he grew up, because of the relationship he doesn't have really with his dad or his mom or anything that's happened. His relationship with his siblings is not there either. Even when he's just like, "Hey guys, I need a night with you guys." They can't do it. That by the time he gets to this speech where he's just like, you know what, I've lived without love, if your family doesn't love you, who will, kind of thing. I believe him that he has put up this armor. So by the time he gets back and Will is there, he even has said, she could be there when I get back. She could not be there when I get back. She could come back and still not love me. It'll be all right because I don't need her to love me. And I believe that he really is in that spot where it's like, I would like her to at least like me or respect me or at least be dedicated to being there. And I think he's sort of like, I'll accept the bare minimum, which is
Connor.
just heartbreaking.
Somebody just give Connor a hug. It's like, everybody on this show is so horrible. They're all just so like, Roman is just,
Oh, my
yeah,
boy
your
Roman. I'm
boy,
Team Roman.
your boy Roman is just like destroying Connor quietly this entire episode with all these just little needles. But here's, there's still a lot of Connor.
But that's because Roman feels the same.
I know he does, and this is the weird comparison that I sort of have with Connor. Is like we all know the movie Big, right? It's Connor is basically Tom Hanks in Big, except for the fact that Connor is both the child and the adult at the same time. He never has like any sort of childhood, so like all of this is due to him, and it's really funny and really sad. I'm gonna go to the bar and have what the normal people are drinking. And he says like this really weird, obscure order, and then he doesn't know how to use the app, and he's just like, she's in the East River.
No.
And then he's just, I'm gonna go to karaoke, and he sings possibly the worst karaoke, not just the worst musical performance ever. This is like Kendall Roy rapping level terrible, but also just a really horrible song. Connor, pick something fun.
It was so weird. That whole
Yes.
scene was so odd. Even seeing Logan in a karaoke booth, I was like, what is happening here? It was so weird. But let's get into the Roman of it all, because this is really going to be an interesting shift. So
Yeah.
we had the siblings all together out with Connor, and Shiv and Kendall realized that Roman actually texted their dad on his birthday to be like, "Happy birthday. Take care." That's all he wrote. But at the same time, they were really upset about it because they were like, we feel betrayed. We all agreed together as a group that we weren't going to contact him because it was the only little bit of power that we have. He owes us an apology. And if he's not going to give it, then he doesn't get this. But Roman, he is such a complicated character, which is why I'm Team Roman. I think he's one of the most fascinating characters on TV. He's so like layered, and he's got his own armor, which is just jokes, because he doesn't want to get close to anybody. He is very much sort of in the same spot that Connor is at, where it's like, well, I've also had, neglectful parents, and now I'm in this spot where no one can get close to me, and I don't want anyone to get close to me. And the only people he really wants to get close to is his parents, who are not having it. So I understand that his dad's birthday would come up and he'd be like, I know I said I wouldn't, but I'll give the bare minimum to make myself feel a little bit better that I'm not like the crappiest kid ever.
Roman is so unbelievably insecure. It's like that's just always.
I understand why he is.
He is, but and that's why I think he is relatable. It is why just out of the main three Roys here, the new gen Roys, as Kendall for some reason called them, I think Roman is my favorite of those three, just because I think he's actually a little bit accessible, and I think he understands this idea of, okay, you know what? Here are some people swinging a little bit too far on the pendulum. I'm going to still communicate on some level with dad. I'm going to go and pay a visit with dad, and because he's insecure, he's also susceptible to, his father being just like, Roman, I could really use
Oh
your
yeah.
help. And it's just like, just the words, I can use your help. That just like lights up Roman's eyes. That makes Roman feel like, my help. He appreciates what I bring
Yeah.
to the table. He wants me.
And Logan knows it. And
Yeah.
I think that Logan deciding to come to the karaoke group where he was kind of like everybody's starting to know in some ways that Matsson might be scared off from this deal. Like we'll get more into sort of the what's going on with that and who knows what,
Yeah.
but we do know that Logan knows that if they vote no, that Madsen's gonna leave. So he decides to come to this karaoke event and he plays the one card he knows is going to work.
Yeah.
He knows it's going to work on Roman because it has worked on Roman every single time he's
Yep.
ever played it because he knows what Roman needs. Roman needs his dad. He needs to feel like he's part of a family, to have that acceptance, to have that good boy Roman, like a little bit of love. I mean, we even saw it at the end of last season where he's like, "What do you have to offer me?" And Roman's like, love." That's where his head is at with this. So to see Logan come in and kind of play this, I'm sorry, this is what's happening, I feel really bad. You could see it written all over Roman's face that it was like, it's working, he's reeling him in.
Yeah.
So by the time we saw at the end where Roman went over there and Logan was like, not I want you with me, I need you with me. It was over. He had just wrapped up the package.
I,
Bye-bye, Roman.
I feel Roman is getting sucked into potentially a bad spot, but it is also like I appreciate Roman at the same time for at least being flexible, for at least hearing people out
Mhm.
to some degree. It may be a bad decision, but I mean, also,
Maybe.
if Brian Cox comes to me and just delivers the quality of speech and like, just the whole apology scene, like that's phenomenal by Brian Cox. He basically was like, takes that and method acting, Jeremy Strong, and put it, I can do this just by wandering into the scene. I'm gonna get all the Emmys for this. But
Oh,
like,
this episode is
yeah.
the episode for him and all the Emmys.
Yeah, he's submitting this for sure, and it's like I understand why Roman would do some of the things that he wants because it's like
Yes.
compare him to some of the other siblings here. You have Kendall, who is just like way too aloof. What is he like holding a basketball for some reason earlier in the Kendall is like what somebody who wants to be a hipster thinks a hipster is like, and hipsters aren't even accurate hipsters a lot of the time. He is just on his own planet. Shiv is just so unbelievably stubborn, and she's just like I think so fueled in part by recent events. She's very reactionary. She's very much just in that frame of mind, and I think that's sort of her Achilles heel business wise. Roman, is he a little bit too emotional? Yes, but is he also very, very smart? Yes, he understands that most people in business, nobody is a cyborg. I mean, maybe Logan is close to it occasionally, but he still does love his children.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I think Logan went in with a plan, and his
Yeah.
plan was Roman because Kendall and him have too much water under the bridge right now that Logan was not going to be able to reach Kendall. And then Logan just completely messed over everything with Shiv. Shiv's trying to get a lawyer in her
Yeah.
divorce, and it's like Tom's got the top, and then everybody else is conflicted out because Logan's made a bunch of calls. I mean, he's really put her in a spot that she is mad and she was not coming around.
Yeah.
This was his in. And if he can get Roman, he might be able to start to get some of the others. And even if he can't, he's taken away someone from the trio. And Roman is very smart. So, and he is sort of able, at least not with Logan, but with his siblings, to think more what's best for the business and how are we going to be able to move forward and get our own piece of the pie.
All right, I'll share my two favorite Roman lines. in this part here. Number one, Roman's reaction to the Conor Roy musical performance where he
Please just play Desperado.
yeah, like that was brilliant. 5 stars to Roman. No notes on that. Also, this one was kind of quick. I'm sure some of you caught on it when he was going back and forth about the text messages. He was just like, yeah, some of them are certain pics of you know what from last season, but that's really coming around to it. I love that mostly because the "Are you a sicko" scene may be the greatest thing in the history of television. I have watched it on YouTube like 800 times.
That was an interesting moment too in this episode when right before Roman went to go see Logan at the end, when Logan was talking to Carrie and he was like, listen, we're going to postpone this. I need to go see Matsson, you know, and invite this person, this person, this person, not Gerri. And at first I was like, not Gerri. Why not Gerri? Because Gerri has proven that she's team Logan. She did at the end of last season. She still is now. And then Roman walked in at the end, and I was like, oh, okay, this is why not Gerri, because he wants Roman to be focused on Logan and what is going on. And if Gerri is there, it's not going to happen.
Logan's so freaking brilliant. Like he really, like I understand he's an awful boss and not a great father. Like him patrolling the newsroom at the start of the episode and
so good. That speech on those paper boxes. Oh my goodness. Just drive all the Emmys up to his house now and be done with it.
I mean, he even got us the best cousin Greg line of the whole season too. He looks like Santa Claus if he's a hitman, which I just thought was great. But okay, let's talk a little bit about now Kendall and Matsson, because this is a particularly strange but important interaction. I mean,
it was strange.
Yeah, it's like, okay, so Kendall knows more than anybody else, at least among, you know, the new Gen Roy, as to what Matsson wants to do, and that he's direct, but he has no real business in going up in his offer. He's kind of got what he wants, and he's gonna move on. But then, you know, Kendall, he just sits on it. He just doesn't say anything whatsoever.
Yeah, it was strange. And it was strange because that's what all the siblings wanted. They wanted this deal to not go through because they want to take over the company. They don't want the company to be sold. So it was kind of like, okay, like then why wouldn't you just tell them?
Yeah.
Like, it's getting back to what they wanted in the first place. The three of them don't want the company to be sold. Okay, cool. Kendall now has information of how to not get the company sold. I know it's a couple months later, but it still was what they originally wanted. It is the path of least resistance for them to just inherit the company. If the company's not sold, this is it for them. They'll just be set up for life. They don't have to do anything. So why not just tell them, hey guys, remember when we just didn't want it to be sold? We've got that chance right now. Let's all vote no, and it'll just work out for us.
It's such a weird thing too, because it's like Kendall is making things way more complicated and harder than it really needs to be, because now he obviously doesn't know that Roman's going to do whatever Roman's going to do here, but he seems to be almost like, you know, we cover Survivor here at the channel. So he acts like he's a Survivor player sometimes, where he's just sort of like, it'll be better if everybody figures out who they want to vote off on their own, as opposed to me telling them, because then they'll have the idea and they'll feel empowered. But it's like, they may vote for somebody else. Like, they may cause some other problems here, Kendall. If you don't speak up and you don't find a way to sort of finagle things, you are not anywhere near as shrewd or as persuasive as you. I don't know how you haven't realized this yet, Kendall Roy.
What I was kind of surprised about is Roman's really good at reading the room. He really is. The problem is that he doesn't take himself seriously, so nobody else does either. So when they're having this conversation about Matsson, and Roman brought up this idea where he's kind of like, oh, you know, it's really very possible that if we up this, that Matsson's just going to walk. I was kind of surprised at that point that Kendall wasn't like, and how would you feel about that? How would you feel about that? Because then he would just know, like, okay, they're on board or they're not on board. And if they are on board, he can just be like, well, I just happen to have just talked to him and it's a go. Let's all vote no. Like, I didn't get it.
It's because Kendall's a mess. Kendall's just bad. Like, I'm just gonna say it. He's not good
He's
at it.
messy.
He's messy. He's not great at his job. He's just miserable all the time. I know they were barely in this episode, but can we give like an honorable mention star to I love Standy and Stewie for some weird reason.
They're great.
It's sort of like on Parks and Rec when you had like Mona Lisa or John Ralphio would come in, they would do like 2 lines, be like, they suck, but I kind of like them. It's like Sandy and Stewie, like they're so irritating, and yet I really enjoy having them. I would watch a Sandy
Yeah.
and Stewie spinoff.
Oh, I would watch that
Where they're
too.
just like irritating everybody, but like I enjoyed having that honestly than more so than I did the Greg and Carrie conversation, where I feel like Greg is best suited for this show when he is like spouting one-liners about how weird Logan looks down on the floor, but it's like the whole Carrie being told sort of by Greg as to what's going on, but not real. It was so it was okay,
I was
yes.
not into it. I'm not into Carrie at all. I mean, she's fine as sort of like this background character
Yeah.
that we know is, hooking up with Logan, all this stuff that's going on, but there was way too much focus on Carrie and her tape and, trying to be an anchor. I was just like, I just don't care about it. I'm not that interested in her. She's an unlikable person. I know a lot of people on the show are, but I just like, she's unlikable and I'm not rooting for her.
Greg needs to be with one other character when he's talking to Carrie, because Greg on his own is too predictable. It's just he is the most predictable character on the show. He's awkward, he's gangly, he's never gonna know how to say something right. I know what Tom was trying to do.
I like that Tom passed it off on
Yeah.
him. I mean, that makes complete sense.
It is complete. I wish somebody forced Tom to go in there though, because yes, Tom is so slimy that absolutely he would do this. But it would have made that scene so much better. It's either that or you just don't show it. We could have all assumed that went exactly how it went.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why Tom was not going to end up doing that, because if
Yeah.
he did it wrong even a little bit and Carrie was like not having it, that was going to be the end of Tom. Like, Tom is someone who he's in a very sort of precarious spot right now because him and Shiv are getting divorced. He's, the son-in-law, but gonna be no more, right? And he's still with Logan, and then if he upsets the girlfriend, what happens to Tom? He's not part of the family really anymore. He won't be. So what happens to him? He's just in such a tough spot.
He really, really is. And that's why this season is so good right now, because everybody is just sort of hanging by their own weird little thread, like, and the Roy siblings are so desperately seeking, some sort of increase in their net worth. Connor's over here just being like, I have a wedding tomorrow, guys.
I know.
Nobody is even looking at his direction. This next episode, it's going to be the wedding, seemingly based on the title.
Yep.
This is going to be a very sad wedding, because none of these people are going to be, no, who's going to give the speech? Logan's going to go up there and be like, congratulations, and start telling off the other kids.
It's going to be, listen, we've seen, the Roy weddings already and how they've gone, like Shiv and Tom's
Oh, no.
wedding. So, I mean, I'm expecting something bad to happen.
Well, we will be here to talk all about that. So subscribe so you guys do not miss that. You can also follow us on Instagram at Matt and Jess TV. We'll see you here next time.